Russia's long-range missiles have a glaring weakness, and NATO just found the key to exploiting it. While massive airfields are sitting ducks in the high north, Sweden's JAS-39 Gripen is turning frozen highways into lethal launch pads. This is how decentralized combat logic is securing total Arctic air supremacy today. Forget everything you know about modern air warfare requiring billion-dollar runways. In the brutal sub-zero temperatures of the Arctic, agility beats infrastructure every single time. By leveraging software-defined power and improvised road bases, the Gripen has effectively neutralized the Kremlin's northern strategy. NATO's flank has never looked more untouchable. What if the most sophisticated air defense in the world isn't a missile system, but a philosophy of movement? Sweden has officially integrated its road-based doctrine into NATO, fundamentally shifting the balance of power in the high north. We are diving deep into how this rugged fighter jet ensures Arctic superiority. For decades, NATO's northern edge looked quiet. Frozen seas, dark skies, and endless snow. But after Finland joined NATO in 2023 and Sweden followed in 2024, the Arctic map changed completely. Now the high north is no longer a distant frozen region. It has become NATO's new front line. The reason is simple. Russia's Kola Peninsula sits close to this region, and it holds major air, naval, and missile assets. From there, Russian aircraft can pressure NATO's northern flank, test air defenses, and threaten routes across the Norwegian Sea, Barents Sea, and North Atlantic. This is where Sweden's entry becomes important, because Arctic warfare is not normal warfare. Here, the enemy is not only across the border, the weather itself becomes a weapon. Sub-zero temperatures stress engines, ice damages runways, long distances make fuel planning difficult. Darkness reduces visibility, and if a major airbase is targeted, a heavy fighter that depends on perfect infrastructure can quickly become trapped. This is why traditional heavy fighters may face limits in the high north. They are powerful, but power alone is not enough in the Arctic. A fighter must launch fast, land on short runways, survive harsh weather, and operate even when main bases are damaged or watched by the enemy. This is where Sweden's Gripen stands apart. Gripen was not designed only for clean air bases and perfect conditions. It was built for Scandinavian survival. Sweden designed it to operate from highways, forest roads, and dispersed bases with small ground crews and fast turnaround time. For NATO, this is not just another aircraft. It is a different air power philosophy. In the Arctic, victory may not belong to the biggest fighter. It may belong to the fighter that can keep flying after the first runway is frozen, damaged, or under threat. This is why Sweden's Gripen changes the high north equation. It gives NATO speed, flexibility, and survival in a region where every minute matters. The Arctic is no longer silent. It is now NATO's coldest, most dangerous, and most strategic frontier. And this is where Gripen's real strength begins. Not in size, but in how it survives, moves, and fights in the frozen north. In the Arctic, a fighter jet does not fail only because of the enemy. It can fail because of the cold. Engines slow down, fuel systems are stressed, electronics face freezing temperatures, runways turn into ice. And if an aircraft needs heavy hangar support every time the weather gets brutal, then in a real crisis, it becomes less of a weapon and more of a liability. This is where Gripen E becomes different. Saab built the Gripen system around Swedish conditions. Snow-covered landing strips, extreme cold, fast starts, hard braking, and maintenance in harsh weather. It was not designed to wait for perfect infrastructure. It was designed to keep operating when the environment itself is trying to shut everything down. That matters in the high north, because in this region, NATO does not only need powerful jets, it needs aircraft that can survive dispersed operations from small bases, road strips, and forward locations where support equipment is limited. Gripen E's real advantage is not just speed in the air, it is speed on the ground. A fighter sitting on a runway is vulnerable.
A fighter that can land, refuel, rearm, and disappear again becomes much harder to target. This is why Gripen's rapid turnaround doctrine is so important. Reuters reported during Sweden's Arctic Sentry deployment in Iceland that Gripen has a low logistical footprint and can be refueled and rearmed by one officer and 4 conscripts in as little as 10 minutes. Saab's official Gripen E data gives a combat turnaround of around 15 to 25 minutes, still built around limited ground crew and fast re-engagement. In simple words, Gripen does not need a huge support army around it. It can move light, it can launch fast, and in an Arctic conflict, that could be the difference between staying alive and being destroyed on the ground. But Gripen E's advantage is not only physical, it is electronic. Modern Russian air defense does not depend on one radar. It uses layered sensors, jamming, long-range detection systems, and electronic warfare to confuse, blind, or trap enemy aircraft. Gripen E was built for that kind of battlefield. It carries a modern Saab radar, passive IRST sensor, and an advanced electronic warfare system based on Saab's Arexis technology. Saab says this system uses ultra-wideband digital receivers, DRFM technology, GaN-based jammer transmitters, and advanced signal processing to detect, disrupt, and survive in complex electronic environments. That means Gripen E is not trying to win only by brute force. It fights with information. It listens before it speaks. It can stay passive, share data, detect threats, and use electronic attack to confuse enemy systems before the pilot is fully exposed. In the Arctic, that is critical, because the sky is wide, the distances are massive, and radar coverage becomes the first line of survival. So the Gripen E engineering advantage is clear. It is cold weather survivability, it is fast ground recovery, it is low logistical demand, and it is electronic warfare built for a battlefield where the first aircraft detected may be the first aircraft destroyed. Gripen E is not the biggest fighter in NATO's northern arsenal, but in the frozen high north, it may be one of the hardest to keep grounded. And once this aircraft is connected with NATO's wider Arctic network, the Gripen becomes more than a fighter. It becomes a sensor, a shield, and a fast-moving warning system.
In a modern war, the first targets are not always fighter jets in the sky. They are air bases on the ground, runways, fuel depots, hangars, radar sites, maintenance shelters. One missile strike can freeze an entire squadron before the pilots even reach their aircraft. Sweden understood this danger long before many others. That is why the Gripen was built around a simple but brutal idea. If the main airbase is destroyed, the fighter must not die with it. Instead of depending only on large military runways, Sweden trained its pilots to use ordinary highways as emergency airstrips. A forest road, a civilian highway, or a prepared roadside strip can suddenly become a runway. The aircraft lands, hides, refuels, rearms, and takes off again before the enemy can lock its next target. This is not just a tactic, it is survival engineering. Gripen E is designed to operate from dispersed and unprepared road bases, and Saab lists road sections as short as 800 meters and 16 meters wide for Gripen operations. That means NATO can spread air power across many small locations instead of concentrating it in one predictable target. The F-35 is a more advanced stealth platform, and it has also proven it can operate from highways during NATO exercises in Finland. But its overall sustainment system is heavier and more complex. The USGAO describes the F-35 logistics system as a major enterprise involving mission planning, maintenance, supply chain management, data systems, servers, and support infrastructure. So this is not a question of which jet is better, it is a question of battlefield philosophy. F-35 brings stealth, sensors, and deep networked power. Gripen brings speed, simplicity, and the ability to scatter. And in the high north, scattering may become the difference between survival and destruction. Because once dozens of roads, forest strips, and hidden refueling points become possible launch sites, the enemy faces a nightmare. Which road is active? Which truck is carrying fuel? Which forest line is hiding missiles? Which small team is preparing the next sortie? To destroy a concentrated air force, the enemy needs a few accurate strikes. But to destroy a dispersed Gripen force, the enemy must search everywhere. And in the Arctic, everywhere is massive. Snow, forests, darkness, distance, and silence all become part of the defense system. That is the real power of Sweden's road-based doctrine. It does not just protect aircraft, it breaks the enemy's targeting logic. The Gripen does not wait to be found. It moves, it hides, it launches again. And when the enemy thinks the runway is destroyed, the next Gripen may already be rising from a highway deep inside the frozen north. And once these road-based Gripens connect with NATO's Arctic radar and data network, they stop being isolated fighters and become moving sensors across the entire northern frontier.
In the high north, air combat is not only about missiles, speed, or altitude. It is about information. Who detects first, understands first, and shares first. This is where Gripen becomes more than a fighter jet. It acts as a flying sensor and data-sharing platform. Gripen E uses radar, infrared search, electronic warfare sensors, and data links to collect and share battlefield information in real time. For NATO's northern flank, this is important. Norway already operates F-35s, and Finland is joining the F-35 era. The F-35 brings stealth and deep sensor fusion, while Gripen brings rapid deployment, road-based survival, and flexible data sharing. Together, they can build a stronger air picture across the Norwegian Sea, Barents Sea, Finland, Sweden, and the Baltic region. Gripen is also gaining a stronger strike role. Sweden is moving to integrate the Taurus KEPD-350 cruise missile with Gripen. With a range of more than 500 kilometers, Taurus can strike hardened and high-value targets such as radar sites, bunkers, and runway infrastructure. This means Gripen can support NATO not only by detecting threats, but also by holding enemy systems at risk from long distance. Gripen E also helps reduce pilot overload. In Arctic combat, pilots face darkness, bad weather, jamming, long ranges, missile warnings, and fast-changing orders. Gripen's wide-area display, sensor fusion, AI support, and human-machine collaboration help the pilot focus on the most important information. In simple words, Gripen is not just a jet with weapons. It is a sensor, data relay, strike platform, and decision support system in one aircraft. In the frozen north, where seconds matter, information may become the most powerful weapon in the sky. The next question is how Gripen deals could change NATO's balance of power across the entire Arctic frontier. The Arctic is changing faster than the world expected. Ice is shrinking, sea routes are opening for longer seasons, and the Northeast Passage, once seen as a frozen dream, is slowly becoming a strategic corridor between Europe and Asia. But this is not just about shipping, it is about power. NOAA's 2025 Arctic Report Card shows that Arctic winter sea ice reached the lowest maximum extent in the 47-year satellite record, while recent years continue to rank among the lowest for summer sea ice. At the same time, Arctic shipping activity has increased, with PAME reporting a 40% rise in unique ships in the Polar Code area from 2013 to 2025. That means more cargo, more energy traffic, more surveillance, more military pressure, and more chances for crisis. For NATO, the Arctic corridor is no longer just a cold, empty space. It is becoming a future trade route, a military approach, and a pressure point where Russia can test the alliance's reaction time. This is why Swedish air power matters, because protecting the high north is not about showing up once. It is about staying there, year after year, winter after winter, patrol after patrol. And that is where Gripen's low operating cost becomes strategic. Saab says Gripen E is designed for low maintenance demand, high availability, dispersed operations, and fast re-engagement with limited ground crew and equipment. It also promotes Gripen as one of the most cost-effective modern fighter systems, especially when fuel, maintenance, pre-flight work, and personnel demands are counted. In simple words, Gripen allows NATO to maintain presence without burning through resources at the same speed as heavier air power models. That matters in the Arctic, because deterrence is not created by one expensive mission. Deterrence is created by persistence. A jet that can fly often, operate from smaller bases, survive harsh weather, and return quickly to the fight gives NATO something more valuable than symbolism. It gives NATO staying power. And in the high north, staying power is everything. If Russian aircraft move near the Barents Sea, NATO must respond. If shipping lanes become vulnerable, NATO must watch. If radar gaps appear in the polar darkness, NATO must fill them. And if a crisis breaks out, NATO cannot wait for perfect weather, perfect runways, or perfect logistics. It needs aircraft already built for the environment. That is the strategic reality Sweden brings. Gripen is not just a fighter jet added to NATO's inventory.
It is a Scandinavian answer to Arctic warfare. Short runways, small crews, low footprint, fast turnaround, electronic warfare, networked sensors, year-round survivability. NATO says the Arctic and High North are increasingly important for collective security, and with 7 of the 8 Arctic states now NATO allies, the alliance has a clear interest in preserving stability there. But stability in the Arctic will not come from words. It will come from presence, and presence will come from aircraft that can actually live in the cold. That is why Swedish engineering has become one of the key pillars of NATO's northern deterrent. Not because Gripen is the largest fighter, not because it is the loudest, but because it fits the battlefield better than almost anything else in its class. The future Arctic corridor will be contested by economics, climate, shipping, surveillance, and military power. And in that frozen corridor, NATO's strongest advantage may not be brute force. It may be the ability to remain visible, mobile, and ready when everyone else is struggling just to operate. The Arctic is melting, the corridor is opening, and Sweden's Gripen may be the aircraft that helps NATO hold the line before the next great power crisis reaches the top of the world. If you found this analysis useful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more defense, aviation, and geopolitical updates. Thanks for watching.